Hey everyone, today we are diving into a problem that, let's be honest, sneaks up on so many successful business owners, especially if you're in a demanding field like a law firm. It's that moment you realize the single biggest thing holding back your company's growth is you. We're going to talk about this owner bottleneck and, more importantly, how to smash right through it.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to get crystal clear on what the owner bottleneck actually is. Then, we'll walk through how to spot it in your own business. After that, we'll lay out 3 very different ways to solve it. Compare them side by side, figure out the exact right time to make your move, and finally, really explore what that breakthrough looks and feels like on the other side.
So what does this really feel like in the day-to-day? Well, it's that weird spot where your success almost feels like a trap. And the reason is pretty simple. You haven't just built a business. You've accidentally become the entire operating system that keeps it running.
Man, this quote just hits you right where it hurts, doesn't it? Because it's so true. I mean, if you're the one who has to sign off on every little purchase, who has to make every operational decision, who has to jump in and put out every single fire, you haven't really built a business that can scale. You've just created a really demanding job for yourself. And just to be super clear, this is way more than just feeling stressed out or busy. It's a genuine structural barrier. Your personal bandwidth, your time, your energy, your focus becomes the absolute ceiling on your company's potential. Every single thing has to flow through you, which makes you the single point of failure.
All right, let's get into the diagnosis part. As we go through these next points, I want you to be really honest with yourself. How many of these sound, well, a little too close to home?
Think of this as your personal checklist. Are you basically a full-time firefighter, just racing from one small emergency to the next, instead of doing the big picture work that only you can do? Does your team spend half their day just waiting for your approval to move forward? Look, if you're nodding your head to even 2 or 3 of these, that's a huge red flag. You're the bottleneck, and it is costing you growth, profit, and maybe even some of your best employees.
But, okay, here is the good news. This problem is not unique. Not at all. And that means it's a solved problem. The whole key is to stop being the human operating system and instead to install one into your business. And lucky for us, there are 3 really clear paths to get that done.
So these are your 3 main options. First, you've got business process outsourcing, or BPO. This is where you hand off specific things like your bookkeeping or HR to an expert. The big mental shift here is trusting an outsider with a piece of your company. Second, you can bring in a fractional leader, like a part-time COO, to come in and build your systems. That requires letting someone else design the engine of your business. And third, you can go all in with a full-time executive who takes over operations completely. This is the biggest leap of faith, literally handing over the keys. They're all great tools, but they solve very different problems.
So, how in the world do you pick the right path for you? This isn't just a gut feel decision. It's about matching the right solution to where your business is right now. So let's actually look at the data.
Let's start with BPO. You know, studies show it's not just about getting work off your plate. On average, companies save about 15%. And here's why. You're not just hiring cheap labor. You're plugging into a specialist's super efficient processes, their expert tech, and their focused experience. You often get better results than if you tried to do it yourself.
Now let's jump to the other end of the spectrum, a full-time chief operating officer. This is a huge move, right? You're getting a true partner to run the business with you. And it's a major financial investment for a reason. You look at the market data, a role like this commands a total compensation package in the neighborhood of $300,000. You're paying for decades of experience and the ability to take complete ownership.
And this is where that amazing middle ground comes into play. A fractional COO gives you that exact same high-level strategic brain to build your systems and lead your team, but you get them on a part-time basis. And as this example shows, you're getting that top-tier executive expertise for, you guessed it, a fraction of the full-time cost.
Okay, let's put it all together on one chart. BPO, low commitment, super flexible, and perfect when you just need to make specific tasks more efficient. A full-time COO, high commitment, a huge investment, best for when your company is big and complex enough to need a full-time operator. But look right there in the middle. For that critical growth phase where you desperately need systems but can't stomach the full-time cost, that's the strategic sweet spot for a fractional COO. So we've covered the what, but what about the when? When does this stop being a someday idea and become a we have to do this right now decision? Well, it turns out the data is surprisingly clear on this. Across the board in professional services, there's this one revenue range that keeps popping up as the danger zone. that $500,000 to $1 million mark. This is the point where complexity just explodes. The scrappy, founder-led habits that got you to this point are the very things that will stop you from getting past this point.
And here's the crucial takeaway. If you're in this revenue band and you're trying to grow, standing still isn't an option. By staying as the central hub for everything, you are creating a hard ceiling on your revenue, on your profit, and honestly on your own sanity.
Okay, let's talk about the final and, frankly, the most exciting part, the breakthrough. What actually happens on the other side of making this hire? It is a complete, fundamental transformation of your business, and, maybe even more importantly, your role inside of it. This slide just says it all, doesn't it? You go from total chaos and everyone depending on you for everything, to a business that runs on clear, documented processes. You go from bumpy, unpredictable growth to smooth, predictable execution that you can actually measure. You evolve from being the bottleneck to leading a real leadership team that runs the business with you. And let's not forget the personal impact here, because this is huge. This is about you getting your time back. Time to work on the big picture strategy, to set the vision, to do the high-value work that only you can do. It's about freedom from the constant stress of the day-to-day grind and finally building a business that can grow and thrive without you having to be involved in every little thing. So, I'm going to leave you with this one final thought. That growth ceiling, the one created by the owner bottleneck, it is very, very real. But so is the breakthrough. It is totally achievable. The only question left is, who are you going to hire to help you break through it?